called.
Hello.
Hi.
Hi.
I don't know what I just did, but the sound is stuck.
We think it's so
Yes.
Hi.
Hi, how are you?
I'm good.
Hi.
Hey.
Love everything about that.
Appreciate
Everything
it.
about that.
I appreciate it. Welcome, welcome. Take a spot.
Let's step out and I'm getting over a cold, so I'm going to nose.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
So I don't interrupt you.
Go do what you must.
So I don't interrupt you. You know there's a bathroom on the floor?
Yeah, they say there's one on every floor. I'm not sure in what direction, but somewhere.
Where are your people from?
I like that question. I like how you ask it.
Yes, because we're from everywhere.
I'm from Kenya.
Nice.
Yes.
Beautiful.
Thank you. And you?
My people are from Costa Rica by way of Jamaica.
Oh, look at that.
Yeah, that's what we're everywhere. We're everywhere, I know.
Hi. Welcome. Thank you for coming. Hi, welcome, welcome. Hi. Hello.
I am well.
Thank you. All right. In the rhythm of the summit, I saw things coming together. I was like, ooh. Yes. Hello. Welcome. Hi. Welcome. I'm good. You? Give it a couple more minutes because I know some people showed up and then they went to use the bathroom. So enjoy this guy while we wait. Oh, look at you, show. Look at you. I appreciate that. Thank you.
I'm staying.
Okay. Thank you. All right. I'll see you. Hey, are you gonna hug me? Say hi, no, Vanessa?
I'm so sorry.
You're like, no. I'm in no contact mood.
No. I'm sorry.
Haven't seen you. I've seen almost everybody. Hi.
Sorry.
Hi.
Hi.
Okay. Thank you.
I'll be right back.
All right. Do you think that because the official start was 45 past, that the end is 30 or 45?
45.
Yeah?
They changed the schedule, yeah.
I was looking and I started making sure we having our people in the house.
Nice to meet you. Like, I think, yeah. I thought I'd have this while I wait for everybody to settle in. Thank you for making sure that's true.
Yeah, making sure that all of them
Have some, yeah, I appreciate that. No, thank you. Thank you. I'm waiting for a couple of people in the bathroom. we should start. Just because it's an hour, hoping that we can get a lot of what I planned covered. Thank you for coming, for stopping by. I hope this will be useful to you. I hope that it's going to be an enriching experience and discussion for all of us. And yeah, I'm gonna just. Okay, so I like the music that was playing because it's very similar to the concepts that are very prevalent in African indigenous knowledge system, which is relying on each other. There's a simplicity to it. There's a soulful joyness to it, and I thought that would be a wonderful song to just play as we settle in. That's why I chose it. I know it might not be everybody's type of music, but I thought it was very similar to today's discussion. So this little gathering that we have is to discuss beyond representation and to just understand the diversity of Blackness and revitalizing indigenous knowledge systems, especially in independent schools, because again, that is a very niche kind of space. So I like this, I call them DI prayers, and we use different ones. I think the Brave Space one is the most popular one, the most common one. But I thought this one by Margaret Wigley, I borrowed it from a different workshop that I had previously, and I really liked it. And I don't know, maybe one of us can offer to read it out loud. Anyone? No? Come on. Thank you.
All right. There is no power greater than a community discovering what it cares about. Ask what's possible, not what's wrong. Keep asking. Notice what you care about. Assume that many others share your dreams. Be brave enough to start a conversation that matters. Talk to people you know. Talk to people you don't know. Talk to people you never talk to. Be intrigued by the difference you hear. Expect to be surprised. Treasure curiosity more than certainty. Invite in everybody who cares to work on what's possible. Acknowledge that everyone is an expert about something. Know that creative solutions come from new connections. Remember, you don't fear people whose story you know. Real listening always brings people close together. Trust that meaningful conversations can change your.
Oh, I'm sorry it cut off, but it's pretty much change your life or your perspective. I really like it because it's about opening up and understanding that we are members and parts of community, and that coming together and listening to each other, and I mean really listening, it really helps us understand each other. And so I thought this would be a really good, because turning to each other again, one of the ideas that is embedded in African indigenous knowledge systems where you codepend on each other. Maybe codependency is not a healthy word, but you kind of rely on other people and expect for them to rely on you. And I thought I'd do a little, because I wrote it, it's a large paragraph because I thought I wouldn't remember all of it. My name is Betha Kavila Kamelamdaki. I'm an educator and a DEI leader. I'm a storyteller, and I have a passion for exploring the depth and diversity of Black identity. I'm a faculty member at the French American School of New York, and I founded a little company called African Storyteller. I'm deeply invested in reclaiming African narratives and in integrating indigenous knowledge systems into education. My work spans multiple countries, including Tanzania, Sudan, India, Germany, Thailand, Uganda, Kenya, and now the US. And this gives me a global perspective on how identity, history, and culture intersect in the learning process. So I feel like the reason why I picked this topic, to be honest, was a little maybe selfish. I'm Black living in America, and I think a lot of people they see me and they see my Blackness, and they think that's my identity, that's who I am. And those assumptions lead to conversations that are oftentimes I'm not ready for, I'm not equipped for, and sometimes being in the DEI space, questions are asked of me and I have to do a lot of reading, a lot of research, a lot of reaching out to colleagues who are Black American or who've been here for an extended period of time to be able to understand and respond to them in a way that is useful to the person who's asking. And so I came in, I'm Black, but I'm African. Yes, I've traveled a lot and lived, this is my 8th country to work and live in, 4th continent, but still, I'm African. Like, that is my expertise. And I feel like the students, the Black students in my school were very excited to have me. I was just like, oh yeah, they are probably just excited because, you know, they see a little bit of themselves in me. But then as I stayed on, the conversations kind of branched and grew wider for the kids that were African and going to my school because they felt I understood their perspective. I understood how they were, you know, some of the issues that they were having, some of the conversations that they couldn't necessarily come 100% to. And they were expressing their concerns to me. And at that time, I wasn't even doing DEI. I wasn't part of that team. I was just present and presenting my own agency, but I wasn't necessarily working with the school to kind of create that space. And it's what inched me into DEI as, you know, part of my profession, part of my career. But it gave me the realization that this whole idea that Black is monolithic is not just hard for a person navigating the education system or schooling in America, but it's also something that the students themselves feel marginalized within their own areas of comfort. And that's why I thought maybe that is something we can look at. I'd like for you to do a thing where you turn to a person sitting next to you and tell them 3 things about who you are. Who are you? Just 3 things. Any 3 adjectives that you feel help, you know, describe or define who you are. So in 3 words. So just quickly for a minute, who are you?
I would say Black, female, and mom.
I'm sorry, I'm gonna when I heard adjectives, I was thinking like characteristics, like personality traits. So I'll go with that. I would say I am curious, open-minded,
Say I'm a Scandinavian daughter, sister.
Okay. All right. You have an idea of who the person. I'm sorry. Do you have an idea of the person who you just interrupted? You have a bit of an idea of who they are, right? So I'm gonna ask you a second layer to it. Where do your roots lie? I want you to ask the same person this question. Where do your roots lie? And see what they come back with. Just for a couple of minutes, do that. Turn to the same person.
I would say by geography, New York. By ancestry, West Africa. By connection, I would say any community that's grounded in African American culture.
I would say my roots lie definitely New York, also in Montreal. A lot of my family, both my parents are from.
My roots are in the upper Midwest. From Norway. Like maybe I'm just a human, like interpersonal level with both of my grandmothers family. We're not it feels like that.
Yeah.
Okay. I gave you a little long on the second one because I thought who you are and just having 3 adjectives to describe who you are doesn't take as long as it takes to kind of help describe, you know, where do your roots lie. Anybody care to share the difference between who are you and where do your roots lie? Anybody who thought there was like a distinct difference in how somebody presented themselves when you inquired about their roots as opposed to who they are? Anyone care to share, part of the discussions they had just about the person you met? What is the thing that occurred to you the first time, and then maybe there was a difference in the way they described their roots, or maybe not. Maybe they maintained their roots were who they were. Anybody? Let's volunteer. Yes.
I would say that from the first question, it's kind of like how we perceive ourselves in the world versus where your roots lie, where you're from, like in terms of, but it comes together because it did come out, at least for us, when we were talking about who we are in the beginning. Our
Yeah,
roots.
I find that, and the reason why I use this example is there's this greeting in my my tribe. I speak 7 languages. English is my 4th one, but my first language has 22 dialects, and I speak 18 of the 22. And oftentimes when I say that to people, they're like, "Oh my God, that is so impressive." I'm like, "Yeah, tell that to the UN. They haven't listed us yet." But it's some of them are very minor, like switches. Some of them are really different, but I came from a place where we went to a school. I had to walk 3 kilometers to get a school. And so surrounding villages spoke all kinds of different languages, and to navigate school, I had to learn all kinds of dialects to be able to make friends, to get along, to understand some things. So that was a social tool that I had to acquire at a very young age. But the thing about it is, in my tribe, there's a greeting you give to somebody you haven't seen in a while. When you meet someone, you say to them, which is a strange way to greet someone, because it means, what did you eat where you went? It's the first thing you say to them when you see them. And it's a little skit because you both know what the responses are going to be, but you do it anyway. And they say to you, which is, I ate a sheep's tail. And you say it because it's supposed to be a delicacy, right? It's this special thing. And you say, why didn't you bring me some? And the other person say, Sindareta, which is, I brought some. And you say, Kugu where is it? And they say, oh man, a bushy monster grabbed it from me just down at the river. And then you both laugh, and then you carry on with the greeting. And the greeting in my tribe is Mirembe, which is peace be with you, and the other person says the same. I know it's similar to Assalamu alaikum. And so greetings make me, I used to wonder, why do we do this stupid skit every time I see somebody? They're gonna say, what did you eat? I'm gonna say this, I'm gonna go through the motions. But I'm realizing now, living here, how useful that was, because here in the US, you say to people hi, which is a very inadequate way to find out how the other person is doing, and they say hi, or you even say, how you doing? And they say, oh, I'm doing good. Or they say how you're doing back, depending on which part of the world you are. But most people just say it so that they don't bother you with how they're really doing. What I have come to appreciate about that long skit is, if you meet someone, if they're in a bad mood, they're going through something, by the time you get to the greetings part, they have somehow broken down whatever walls, whatever they were going through. They have come to a space where they can actually tell you if they're at peace or they're not. And there's a sincerity in their response, because you've kind of melted the ice that was between the two of you, or whatever was standing between the two of you, even if it's time or distance or whatever it is. And I appreciate that. So what I do is, when I meet people that I either know or haven't seen, or I always say hi, we go through the motions, and a little bit into the conversation I always say, how are you? I take a breath, I look at them, and they say, how are you? And I find when I ask it after a little conversation, people oftentimes open up a little more. They're like, man, I'm having a day, or, oh yeah, I have this exciting news. And I think that this is a very tribal thing for a lot of sub-Saharan Africans, even in the north, where greetings are, we really are checking in with each other. Now, labels and identities are tied into this, because I find the simplistic surface level identity of somebody, like the way we view them, are oftentimes labels. A woman, or black, or white, or Christian, or this. there are things that make up who we are, but they're not what we identify as. So when you say, how are you, who are you, people oftentimes tell you their labels. Yeah, and then when you say, where do your roots lie, they start really looking at their identity. And I find that when you look at Blackness and the assumption that Black people are this one group, you're not really looking at their identities, you're looking at you've labeled them. They're Black, you expect a certain attitude, you expect a certain level of oppression. And so when you really get into knowing someone, that is when you're really demystifying their identity. And I think that in regard to just looking at how labels interact with identities, this is something that is very important. So I think that a label is often externally imposed, and identity is how we perceive ourselves. And that's why I think that's what Vanessa had said earlier on. It forces you to kind of tell them about who you really feel you are, your own identity. Now, there is a reason why those greetings that, who are you and what are your roots? Like, tell me about your rooting and where you come from. There is these things that are tied into that. First, you are respecting community identity. Where I come from, I'm gonna use me because that is the person I know best. We don't intermarry, and we don't intermarry from a clan level. Now, a clan is a subset that is within a tribe. You have a tribe, you have all of these different frequencies that exist within the tribe, and then you have your bloodline. Your bloodline is what determines your clan, but your sub-clan is your mom's bloodline. So I cannot marry anyone from my father's clan or my mother's clan. And so it kind of keeps the blood pure. And I don't know where the science came, because now when I see biology study it and science, protect that, I'm like, oh, my ancestors kind of figured that out years before. And we knew that innately that we shouldn't be marrying, within certain limits of our togetherness. Asking people what their roots are. If you're a young man living in the city and you meet a girl and you like the girl, you might date this girl and take them home to mom and dad, and they're like, oh, you didn't ask what their clan was? You cannot marry her. She could be a cousin. You're like, in what way? They're like, I don't know, 40th cousin down the line. We don't know, but we just know that somehow you share blood. And oftentimes your name, like Mdaki is my surname, that's my father's name. If you ever meet any other Mdaki in the world, that's my cousin. I can almost guarantee it, because the naming system is done in a way that it presents that to the world that you come from. So when you tell someone my name is Mdaki, they're like, oh, they kind of can figure out where you're from within your tribe. And so it does offer respect for community and identity as a community, because you don't exist in a vacuum. You are an extension of your community. And this is something that I feel like when we are dealing with our Black students in our school, they are a member of community, and we are oftentimes asking for them to identify with that community, but we don't have regard for the differences in the community and their routings, right? And then avoiding the direct question, because to be honest, this whole, I feel like the reason why we progress or stagnate so much is the same reason. We don't talk about things directly. We like a riddle, we like a proverb, we like a fable, we like everything. We will not address the thing. We will talk around the thing until you figure out. And I used to find that frustrating, but over time, and being a storyteller, because I used to really be a paid storyteller for a living for a period of time. And what that taught me is, it's actually nice, because everybody boards when they're ready to board, and everybody gets off when they're like, they've had enough. And just talking around something, people are going to understand it at their level of maturity. So they're not really telling you what the interpretation is. They tell you the thing, you navigate your way around the thing, and over time, you figure it out. One time, my brother and I used to fight all the time. My older brother, his name is Andrew. And my mom one time, she was cooking on the 3 stones in the kitchen. She was like, go get me a plate. So I go to the main house, I bring a plate. And she says, you know that a dog say to the other, if I push you and you fall, and you push me and I fall, I know it's play and not fight. And she continued cooking. And in her, I was like, oh, okay. And this was the way she would always talk about things, around things. And she would get really annoyed if you asked her to disprove, like, what do you mean? What is the story for? She would say, that is why I told you, so you can think about it. And she'd hate it if you asked anybody else. She's like, you need to figure it out for yourself. So I kind of snuck over to Andrew. I'm like, Andrew, mom said that if you do this, and Andrew thought about it. He didn't care because it wasn't his story. So he didn't even help me. He was like, I don't know, I don't care, I have something to do. Like, get out of my space. I was like, okay. Now, over time, I came to the realization that what my mom meant is, sometimes, because I always reported my brother, I'm like, Mom, he's pushing, Mom, he pinched, Mom. And she got sick of it. And over time, I was like, oh, if he pushes and I push and he laughs, then we are playing and we're not fighting. It took me a long time to figure that out. It took, I think, more than a year for me to finally, and I kept saying it to my friends, I repeated it. And different people have different interpretations of that, but that's the whole point, where we are not asking direct questions because we are allowing people to show up at their level of it. Some people know what their identity is, but they don't want to tell you. I know a lot of students at my school who are maybe, they come from their family dynamics. Maybe dad is from here and mom is from there, and maybe I have had experience with students that are adopted, and I have met mom, and I have completely swallowed my tongue because I don't know. There was an assumption in my head of what certain students' parents look like, and then parents show up, and I'm like, and some students don't want to talk about that because they understand how complex that dynamic is. And so by asking for their labels directly, they cannot really tell you their identity because their identity is complex. They don't think you have enough context to understand their identity. So by not asking direct questions, you're actually allowing people to release themselves to you in bits they think you can comprehend, you can process. And so identity and labels kind of intertwine. Now, these are some examples that I've collected over time, like what village or clan do you belong to, from which people do you descend, what stories do you carry within you, and what ancestral land do you call home? These are some questions you can ask. If you have students that are Black but are not American, they will really appreciate this line of like trying to find out who they are. Now, my children, if you ask them this question, my kids are hyacinth. You know, they're a seaweed. They don't know what their roots are. They've been, ferried all over the world. So this identity would look very interesting for them. They wouldn't tell you that they don't have a taproot. Their roots are like wherever the wind blows, we go, we thrive, we bloom where we plant. And so this would probably look very different for them, but that is something that I would encourage for you to do. Now, we've spoken so long, and I know you were like, what is this workshop about? We arrived here because I wanted you to have a little context. Now, it challenges the oversimplified narrative of Blackness, often seen in our schools, and it explores the indigenous African knowledge systems and how we can use that to make meaningful and inclusive education practices. So I'm hoping at the end of this, we have one or two things that we can go back to our schools and apply from some of the African indigenous knowledge systems. These are some of the points that I thought we could address: understand the diversity of Black identity, explore indigenous knowledge systems, move beyond representation, and hopefully at the end, the green is, you're able to have an element you can bring back to school that is actually useful to your community. Now, we all have, I think, as Black community, yes.
Can you please,
You want me to go back?
yeah, go back, yes. Thank you.
Okay. I don't mind you taking a picture because then you can carry. Or I can always share the slides at the end if you'd like. She's nodding, so I think it's a green. These are some of the key aspects that I think kind of diversify Black communities as far as I have been able to observe. So we have the shared experience and the unique histories. We all, I think Black identity comes either with enslavement stories or colonization stories. I imagine there are stories that exist in between those two. I haven't encountered them, so I can't speak on them. But I think that we share things that are related to race and racism and how identities kind of go back to certain origins that I think people can kind of sort of like, these are Afrocentric, they come from this region and this is how they ended up in the rest of the world. Like I said, there's the African American or Black American, and then there's the Black immigrant. And I just, like, I'm an example of the black immigrant. I honestly, sometimes I think, because I've worked internationally, and I always look at my black American friends and think, oh my God, if I had your passport, the things I could do. Because you're American, you have a certain privilege that I do not have. And I don't know how much of that privilege a lot of black Americans know that they have, because I have worked in places that I have had job offers. There was a time I was supposed to work somewhere in Europe. The school really liked me. We were, you know, I wanted to work for them. And eventually they said, we are unfortunately going to go with a different candidate. And I was kind of sad about it. And I went to a workshop in Berlin, and I met the school principal. And I said to him, I said, oh man, I was really looking forward to work with you guys. And I'm just wondering, off the books, what was it? Was the other candidate just more experienced? But like, I want to know how to make myself better. And he said to me, it's because of your passport. Your passport, it'll be hellish to process to get you the right papers to get here. And I have had a job offer. I have signed contract. I have ties with the former school, and not being able to go because I didn't get the visa. And even though the school wanted to hire me, there are other things in place. So I sometimes look at black Americans, I'm like, man, do you know what your passport can do? As a global educator, somebody who travels for work, that is a dream. And I think that not just that, but there are elements of, and even like when we go to POCC and people go to their affinity groups, I feel badly. I think last time I was walking through the black affinity space and everybody was like, I know you're black. Where you walking to? But I was going to the international affinity group because sometimes I feel inadequate to show up for black American, brand or like the struggle. I feel like I will devalue the pain. I will make it lessen it or not understand the intensity, and somehow I feel afraid to show up in that space, and I feel and empathize with the black students that are not black American that might be facing challenges that are very unique to them. And so that discussion and assuming that they're a whole might hinder you actually inviting them into that space of, this is our space. We want to create belonging. They don't feel like they belong because their brand or their identity and their type of blackness doesn't necessarily tie in. And then their intermarriages, multiracial identities, their class and economic status. I was actually telling a colleague today morning, there's a trip at my school, and it's a ski trip. And I said to, the organizers, they say that you have to be an experienced skier to go. And I said, I know that you mean well because there's no one there that is going to spend time teaching them, but I hope you do realize that skiing is not necessarily a certain type sport a certain group of people do. And some kids are in an international school or are in an independent school, and this opportunity comes up, they're like, this is my chance to go to a ski trip or to go up, like to go learn this because my family doesn't go. I would like to go. Unfortunately, some of those kids are also on financial aid. And they cannot go home and say, Mom, could you pay the $3,000 so that I can go for a weekend away to ski? But I was suggesting, was like, maybe financial aid can be extended to cover some of the trips because at my school it doesn't, but also maybe we can allow for beginners to go at a higher price. Just so it's on there, and there are parents who are financially able to send the children to that. They don't go themselves, but don't we want opportunities for our kids ourselves we didn't have access to? I'm that mom. You will not catch me on any slope. Listen, I was given feet. I walk. I swim for survival, not for leisure. There is certain things it's not in my genome. I'm like, no, listen, I come from a farming tribe. We were not swimmers. We stayed very firmly on the ground. And so slopes are not calling me by all my phonemes. But I want my kids to do that. I want to open the world up to them. I want to say, so maybe it's a little extra, but it's inclusive. Assuming that everybody can just go and everybody has had experience is not really represented. And this is not even a black people thing, this is just an everybody in school thing. Some kids are like, I would really love to go do that. religious and cultural variations. Ramadan just ended. There are students at my school that, are Black and Muslim, and when they are celebrated, there is a certain nuance that has to be realized, that they carry double, maybe triple. I worked in Khartoum, and I worked for very affluent families, the wealthiest people I've ever worked for, but they're in Sudan, right? And they have access, they have pass, because this is oil money, this is long money. They can access the world, but they always used to joke. I remember bringing them to a trip in Thailand, because I'd done some work in Thailand before, and the school was like, oh, you have to be on the trip. So I was bringing them, and one of the things in Khartoum is you don't just get a visa to the country you're visiting, you also need a visa from your country to release you, because, with civil strife and everything, there's a lot going on. And the students said, one of my students, very rich kid, flew private and everything, but now we're on a school trip, he has to hang out with the rest of us. And he says to me, at the airport, the worst thing that can happen to you is to be behind me on the queue. And I was like, why? He said, miss, my name is Ali Osama. Like, my name carries so much baggage, the officer at the airport takes a while to unpack. Like, what kind of passenger? Where are you going to? What do you want? All of those things. And I thought, this is not just a Black boy. This is a Black boy with a religion that has somehow gotten really bad press and is being, this is an added layer of burden that if we're just thinking Black people as monolithic, we're not really, catering to his needs in that way. And then political and social identities, encouraging students to tell you how, and I always email, when I organize assemblies for DI, I email a group of people and I say, hi, I'm emailing you because I believe you identify as Arabic, and I always put in bracket, correct me if I'm wrong. Because sometimes you assume, and sometimes people don't want their own identities, right? Sometimes people are like, people say that is a label, but it's not how I identify myself. And sometimes if you're caught in between two worlds, you might identify as one thing and not as the other, and that is your prerogative. And allowing students to self-identify will help with that. The first one is this, and I was hoping we can all stand up. Let's do this to do this web of humanity. I wanted us to do a little activity that I hope will work, and I hope will take as short as in my head I planned it to. We can just stand in some sort of a circle. I have this spool of thread. I tried to find a black spool of thread that I could actually match with my activity, but I didn't. I'm gonna start off. So what we're gonna do is, I will say one thing I'm grateful for having community here, because I'm a village girl. I like a village around me. And whether it is at school, my colleagues, my Jedi people, in any way, those are my tribes. Those are my little tribes that I have built for myself in a faraway city, in a faraway land. So I want you to tie a knot, you can tie it and pass it to somebody else anywhere in the room, but I want you to keep hold of it. So I am grateful for all the kindness that has been shown to me since my arrival in the country. And that is, I don't know why I wasn't expecting it, but people have been very kind to me. So I'm gonna pass this. Hold on to after you tie the knot, hold on to it and pass it to whoever you want. So just say one thing you're grateful for and then pass it on.
I am grateful to be in community with everyone here.
Okay. And you don't even have to tie, you can just pass it on.
I am grateful to be learning from you.
Oh, thank you.
Grateful to be learning from my students every day.
I am grateful to be attending this conference and learning more about how to be there for my students in an affinity space.
I'm grateful to work for a school that supports this work.
I'm grateful for the fellowship here today.
Roll as much as you like, yeah. Take as
I'm
much of it.
grateful to learn that Tina is not dead.
Oh. Please make it go all over.
With the stripes.
Stripes.
Oh.
I'm grateful for all the educators that I work with who ask challenging questions.
Oh my goodness.
You can let it drop so that you get a big roll out of it.
I'm grateful for my own village of friends and family.
I am grateful for having people help opening my eyes and to help my eyes stay open. One moment, please.
I'm grateful to my family and the lycée to give me the opportunity to do my internship here, so to learn English and all I learn here.
I'm grateful for my school's DEI director for empowering and including me in this work in our school and to be here today.
Back here, there's one left. Oh, two. Three. Oh. Okay, you forget your neighbor. Just throw it so that it can unwind. Okay.
Yeah, I'm really grateful for this conversation. I love the fact that we're talking about blackness not being a monolith.
This isn't really a new idea, someone said this, but I'm really grateful to my school for the support in this work, and especially with things that have come up recently in public schools and other environments, like my administration saying like we're doing this work, we're still teaching to our values and not straying at all.
Thank you. I'm grateful to have met people with very similar international experience and familial experience and building from that.
Thank you. Could we put a little tension on the thread, just as far as you can put tension in it? I'm gonna ask any one random person to let go of their part of the stream. That is what we're gonna talk about in the next part. I wanted for us to see how practically if one person lets go, what happens. Thank you for participating. I'll just grab it all. You can go back to your chairs.
And then we'll talk a little more.
So, sorry. Now, African Indigenous knowledge systems. Now, here's my observation. I have had to learn how to navigate the white man's world, the West. Studied it since I was a little girl, learned about them, and I feel like when you're an underdog, you gotta prepare yourself for the big dog, so that you can learn how to navigate and work in their world and understand their nuances. But I feel like when you're in power, you oftentimes don't take time to study, the people that are kind of coming up, or you feel are smaller than you in some ways. I think Western ideology of education is circular, where we have to be transparent. We have to see where this knowledge goes. We have to see how it's passed on from one person to the other. We have to critique it. We have to pick it apart. We have African culture is by faith. You get handed the culture, and we don't know what you're gonna do with it because we come from an oral tradition, right? We trust that you will have the integrity to keep it intact and to share it with the person that comes after you, and we never see where it goes because it is linear, right? It's generations of people behind you, generations of people ahead of you, and everybody is having faith that you will not let go of the string, that you are this web of very complex knowledge, and it's delivered in a very simple way. And if you're educated, formally educated, you oftentimes don't understand the depth of the knowledge that has been passed on to you. You think it's just a proverb, it's just a riddle, it's just a superstition, it is just a thing my people used to believe. No, it's given to you in the most basic form so that you can carry it with simplicity, but it doesn't mean you shouldn't pass it on because it's too simple. And oftentimes, when we get educated, go our papers or degrees, we often start devaluing those indigenous knowledge systems because we disregard them because they're simple. It's a simple thing. Here is a bowl of, yarn. Your job is to deliver it to the next person. Try not to ruin it. Try not to let go of your part because we are working communally here. And one of the knowledge systems that I wanted us to look at is Ubuntu, which is, I think, the most famous African knowledge indigenous system that we know of. And it says Umuntu Ngomotu Gabutu Gabantu. And this is very similar to my language because I'm a Bantu, but from East Africa. My people migrated from the south of Africa to the east of Africa. I am a person through other people. Your existence and your wellness is dependent on and this is the sign of Ubuntu. It's a circle with 3 dots outside, but really it's people holding hands in a circle. And it is about togetherness. You have that sturdiness. You can rely on people. It's actually one of the things I really wish the West did a little bit more of. Here people are very individual. This is my house, my space, my things. Do not touch, do not come without invitation. If you have a wedding in my village, you don't send out wedding invitations. You say, I have a wedding on Sunday, and then you cook for the village. Because if you give out, we don't know what that is. What do you mean it's your wedding? It's some guy from a different clan marrying one of ours. We are coming, we are showing up. Your enemies are coming, your friends are coming, your neighbors are coming, people from 3 villages over that you hardly know are coming. It is community, and you know what? People might not have the best, you might not curate it, it may not be perfect, but it's so joyful. And I think that sense of community is something that we can kind of lend into our space. Now, Ubuntu, of course, comes from the south of Africa. It's mostly from the Zulu people, and it's famously, this is the most famous translation that we get, I am because we are, yeah? And so it's built in community and togetherness, compassion and generosity, respect and dignity, reconciliation and forgiveness, and collective responsibility. I got, sorry for the 2 number 4s, one of them is 5. I got my behind whooped so bad by ladies in my village whom I hardly knew. They met me on the side of the road. I was doing something or saying something out of turn. They were like, come here. And they pinched my ear, and I would never say it to my mom because immediately I said it to my mom. Mom was like, why did they pinch your ear? What were you doing? And then I'm in more trouble. But this, knowing that if your neighbor's child starts behaving badly, your children who hang out with that neighbor's child are going to have those same morals and that same understanding that your child does not exist in a vacuum. And knowing that if we speak up on issues that are communal problems or even individual problems, and it takes away the blame. It takes away the, oh my God, that mom failed that child. No, we failed as a community. That when we, and when I go back home, it's a whole affair because now I am the Bill Gates of where I come from on account of, oh my God, she's in America. I'm like, people, I'm a teacher. Look up teacher salaries. But the dollar just stretches so much where I come from. And when I go back home, I support so many people because for about maybe $90, $100, I can pay for a high schooler's fee for a year. And so like, I'm like, it's $100, I can do it, I can help. But when I go back home, I never need a babysitter either. My kids are taken care of. Like girls are just, they're like, oh, can I take them? Can I, help with this? Can I help with you? All of this is because we help each other out. And so if I'm winning, everybody, like I can meet a lady 3 villages over and they will hug me and they will say to somebody else, oh, she is a girl from my village. She went to school and she got educated. She now does well for herself. She's been here and here. The pride is not just for my parents. Everybody raised me. And so when you win, everybody wins. But when you're failing, you don't blame the parents. It's our failure. So I feel like within our schools, just having, when there's an issue, taking responsibility. There's a child who's saying things, racial slurs, being unkind. What are we doing as a community? We are ostracizing them. We are calling them out. We are saying, oh my God, we need to get rid of them. But where's the reconciliation? Where's the forgiveness? Where's the working as a community? And I think just within the Black community, making sure that those things are happening is something that is quite important, that we know we are working as a team. These are some of the things we can borrow from Ubuntu, right? Community-centered education. Now, our students, our teachers, our staff should know, and I always say when I have weekly meetings with my assistant head of school, I always say, I need, when I walk out of your office, to feel that if shit hits the fan, I am protected to some extent, because I'm doing this work for all of us, right? And so sometimes these risks might not go the way we thought they would, but I need to know that I have support, that we can talk through it, and I don't feel like I'm just endangered. I have a big old red target on my back. And I feel like in school, not just teachers or students, just as a community, knowing that people will show up for you. You know, your colleague is getting married, or somebody lost somebody they loved, or a student is struggling with something, or we know this has happened. How are we showing up for that person? Are you the person who sends an email to everybody and says, hey, you know, so-and-so is going through a thing, maybe we can show up for them in this way? Knowing, and when people have built the trust in you, it reverberates in other areas of community. And then restorative justice practice. I think this year, there have been so many workshops on restorative justice practices where we're not punishing you. We are trying to help you realize what you've done is wrong, and trying to make sure that it is not punishment. We want you to take accountability. And there have been so many presentations I've attended this year that have to do with that. And then just making sure that students know we need to serve each other. And I know a lot of our independent schools do a really good job reminding students community service for IB schools is mandatory. There are so many other things that schools are doing to do that. And the second one is Sankofu, and I'm gonna try to rush through this because I don't think we have a lot of time left. This is the sign of Sankofu, and Sankofu just means going back for that which you've forgotten, right? And so you forgot something, you're going back for it. That is what Sankofu means. Now, this is from Ghana, and it is from the people, the Akan people. And I think that it is not, this is what it means. It is not wrong to go back for that which you have forgotten. We are living in a time in history when history is being remodeled, reshaped, right? Where history is being rewritten. We are being told some things we shouldn't teach, we shouldn't touch. They make a certain part of our schools uncomfortable. People are feeling guilty after certain lessons. And so we're being discouraged from doing that. But I want you to remind not just the Black students in our schools, because sometimes, because I teach in a French school. And sometimes I ask students, oh, tell me about your background. And they're like, oh man, you know, my mom is half Irish and half German, and my dad, and I'm like, oh my God, this is the roots, man. Like, everybody has a depth to them if they care to find out what their roots are, right? And we should be encouraging those conversations. It's okay to say, we kind of dropped the ball. We lost track of our indigenous systems. We forgot about our own histories. We are trusting, and that is one of the proverbs that I put in here, that until the lion learns how to write, every story will glorify the hunter. Yeah? And so this is why we need to go back and pick parts of our history that we forgot. We dropped the ball, but that is not the end. We can go back. We can look at, whatever information and knowledge that we have, and kind of embrace that from all our cultures and say, this is what our people used to do, and they choose to work. And we can reuse that in our present environment and make it work. So Sankofu is another indigenous knowledge system that we can borrow and use. So decolonizing the curriculum, for example, is something that we need to actively do. So I am a literature teacher, and you should see me at staff meetings. I have a list, about 45 of them, mind you. It's 3 classes, I'm proposing this 40-something books to, right? I'm like, oh my God, Chimamanda, she's too long. I got you. You know what we could do? We could do this other. I am ready to walk in with my ancestors to say, can we read some sub-Saharan African literature? Can we read some North African literature? Can we read some Caribbean literature? V.S. Naipaul is out there. He's doing a thing. Grace Nichols. There are people in the Caribbean. There are people in all parts of the universe that represent Blackness in its diversity in a beautiful way. And just looking at it from one angle, I love me, Toni Morrison. I love me, Amaya Angelou. I love all these people. But that is the assumption, and we work in independent schools where not all our students are Black American, and it is great to celebrate those people, but we also need to teach them there is a Chinua Achebe out there. There are Wole Soyinkas out there. There are so many other people that can speak on Blackness in a different way that you didn't originally think of, right? When I read Jamaica Kincaid with students, she speaks so harshly about, Antigua, and then in the end, I always do her bio last. I'm like, yeah. And she's married to this white guy and has this, and they're like, what? Because she speaks so strongly on Blackness that she almost, and somebody said this, I think at the Jedi training, don't be too far ahead that they start to think you're the enemy. And Jamaica does that sometimes. She's too far ahead. I'm like, oh, do not Amanda Seals this situation. We are not there yet. Like, now you're starting to look like the enemy, sis. We know you're an ally. We know you're doing the work, but you are. We come to realization 3 years later, oh, that's what Amanda Seals was talking about? I'm like, girl, you're too ahead of the game. But sometimes it is okay to embrace the different and decolonize the curriculum and show the beauty in other spaces. Cultural reflection and identity, we do it at our school through assemblies, and we have these big parties. Like next month, we have the Arabic American History Month, and we're gonna do a big Arabic bash, and people learn. I'm gonna send this to you, healing from colonization, slavery, all of these beautiful things we can do. I was gonna do this and show you this really cool school that you can use. It is here somewhere. The Black Curriculum. This is an organization in the UK that teaches, it curates curriculums to kind of show you how much power Black can hold. And I looked at it, I was like, this is a good case study of how you can actually centralize resources, knowledge, information, data, all kinds of cool things, and use them. And they don't do them in like in tunnels. They do a really good wide perspective. And I do not work with these people. They do not pay me to plug them. I'm just saying, a good resource is a good resource. Never mind my 3,000 tabs. That's how my brain is wired. I always have tabs open, buffering in the background. So I thought we could look at that and then maybe work on this, but we've run out of time. I wanted for us to brainstorm, how do we incorporate this into our systems? How do we address intra-community diversity? Because I feel like sometimes as Black kids in schools don't even know each other like that. They're just happy to be surface level Black. They're just like, oh, you're Black, I'm Black, hey, let's hang. I'm like, no, but you're not the same type of Black though. And there's nothing wrong with being different. Yeah, it's beautiful. So anyway, I'm gonna just leave it here and you guys can work on it in the course of your day and kind of find a way of integrating this back into your school. That was supposed to be the takeaway, by the way. So I have failed. I did promise you you'll bring something back, and I didn't deliver that, but I hope that something stuck. Thank you for attending. I can take your I can put your emails on a piece of paper if you, and then I can share the slides.
All right, let's do that.
Yeah.
All right. Yes,
So
please.
good.
Thank you. Thank you for attending. Last year, I had, I think, 6 people.
Oh.
And this year, I had almost a full room.
Yes.
I appreciate it. Thank you so much. You know.
We should do that PLCC.
Yeah, you should.
PLCC will not. I don't know if they'll have me. I've proposed a couple of things and they've just sent me over.
Don't give up.
Don't give up?
As part of your village, you gotta keep going.
Okay, I'll keep sending the proposals and hopefully it sticks. Something.
I'm gonna send them an email.
I mean, no, thank you for coming. Thank you, Vanessa. Appreciate you.
I'm glad I came. I'll see you later.
Thank you. See you later. You going for the social?
I'll write really, really fast so we can get out of here.
Oh, okay. But I'll see you around for the rest of the afternoon. Okay, I have your email though, right? Yeah. I'll find it. I'll make sure. Yeah.
Oh my goodness. How are you doing? How's life?
It's such a full room.
Yeah? I thought all rooms were this full. I just locked
You haven't been in
out.
any of lockdown.
You're from where? The one in Northwood?
Yes, that
Okay, I'm
one.
in Rochester.
Hey, I came to
good
your
enough.
school to do when Ali Morgan was still there. I came to do a story center.
It's just like,
Oh my goodness.
must have been, but I have a student, high school student. She came from the potty family.
What's her friend name?
Daphne.
Oh yeah, I know Daphne.
She's my advisor.
Oh, tell hi, say hi, thank you for coming.
No, it was so good just hearing, because I worked international. And there were a lot of places that were like, please, listen.
Thank you so much. No, thank you. Oh, really? Oh, yeah. Oh, I forget about that. You can unplug me and plug yourself. Yeah, I have that. Thank you. I'm like, damn, if I had that, I'd be cruising.
Italy told me straight up, they were like, we want to hire you, but we don't know how our people are going to treat you.
So that's the workshop.
Thank you.
Oh, thank you. I appreciate that. Thank you. Thank you. Hi, come in, come in. Hi. That is mine.